Hello, everybody. Akamatzu here, back with another thoughts video. This time on Final Fantasy VII, our eighth game in our Final Fantasy marathon. So, as always, before I go into the thoughts on the game, I like to give you my history on it. So, for Final Fantasy VII, this was the third Final Fantasy game that I played behind Final Fantasy VIII, which was behind Final Fantasy VI. And I have played this game a lot. I played it originally on the PlayStation 1. I repurchased it on my PS3 digitally, replayed it there. I got it on the PS4, played it there. I got it pretty much everywhere. I got it on my Switch. It's everywhere. I've played it multiple times. I don't really know how many times, but I think I have at least played it about 5 times, I'm going to guess. So I've had quite an experience with it. Now, as much as I played it, you would think I would have always loved it, and that's not the case. I got kind of tired at some point when people would kind of invalidate the other FF games and just praise 7. I kind of felt like I was acting like the other FF games just didn't exist. And so I grew to kind of resent 7 in a way, and that persists for years. It was around the time that I got my PS3 and I replayed it a couple times. I think I did 2 playthroughs that I started to kind of let that go. But there was a period in time that I got tired of everyone telling you that Final Fantasy VII was the best Final Fantasy game ever. But I think that lays the whole picture of how I felt about the game before we get into our thoughts. Now, as always with the thoughts, I go in a pattern of good, neutral, and bad. So let's start off with the good. The combat and everyone's individual abilities that make them unique are fantastic. No character in this game plays the same. They don't feel the same. And I love that. And on top of that, you have the materia system, which it's perfect, I would say. I can't think of any strong reasons why it's bad. It just works. It feels satisfying when you level up in materia. It feels amazing when you pull off strategies. It's great. There's so many combinations of stuff that you can put together. There's so many strategies that you can come up with. It's a very versatile system that they created. It feels rewarding. There's all kinds of stuff in the game for you to make and use. And I just think Square knocked it right out of the park. Another thing that they did well was how they portrayed the bad guys. Most of the game, or the entire game, how you look at it, Shinra is the bad guy, or things that are created from Shinra are the bad guy. And the way that they represent Shinra and all its vast characters, there's so many characters from the Turks, President Shinra, Hojo, Scarlet, Heimdallr, technically Sephiroth, right? He was a part of the soldier program, is well done. They are a numerous face bad guy in many different forms. President Shinra is a complete and utter jackass who has no sympathy and will sacrifice anything for his own greed and success, right? Scarlet, no concern for human life, a psychopath. Heimdallr, basically a bootlicker that will do anything that President Shinra will ask him to do, and even if it's bad, right? And do we even need to talk about Hojo? Literally, almost always at the start of a lot of the deep rooted issues in this game. I personally think he's the bad guy or the catalyst for almost all the things that the players have to face. They even have the cool bad guys from the Turks who are kind of like not horrible, horrible people, but they do bad things and they represent them in a cool way. The Shinra company is just such a cool entity to dislike. They did such a well done effort in representing a company as bad guys. And that's going to be part one. I really like how they represented the Shinra company in Final Fantasy VII and made parallels to like real life evil corporations because that is what President Shinra is supposed to represent, a evil businessman. And let's focus on part two, which is Sephiroth. I really enjoy Sephiroth. I like the fact that the story, when it picks up and latches onto him, he is the focus of it. He is center. His reasons are explained. His backstory is explained, although not completed in this game. It's explained enough. We get reasons for why he's doing what he's doing. We get not his point of view, but other people's point of views, which contribute to his point of view. Hojo, with not telling him that he's his father, which contributes to Sephiroth's always questioning his humanity because he feels like he's different, which in turn enables the Nibelheim event because he misidentifies stuff. It's such a multi-layer cake that we get to see this hero fall and become the villain, and we get to see why. And then we see his manipulation, and it's just great. I think it's fantastic and how he has his hands in a lot of stuff, moving the story and his execution. I think Square did just a fantastic job with the way that they portrayed the Shinra Company and Sephiroth. And lastly, the thing that I really enjoyed about Final Fantasy VII is the characters. Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, doesn't have that many weak characters. I do think Vincent is on the lower side because he doesn't get much screen time. Same with Cat Sif. But Final Fantasy VII has amazing characters. Cloud's interesting. Tifa's interesting. Barrett is interesting. Sid is interesting. They all get their own backstories. We learn about them. They go on their own individual quests at some point so that we get to experience their life. And that's so great. I like that. It just makes them so much more enjoyable to experience. And going back to what I said with the bad guy, I like the fact that they do that with the bad guy. I really enjoy the fact that they flesh out the characters in Final Fantasy VII so much. It's just incredibly enjoyable. Now, with that said, let's jump into the neutrals. I'm going to start off with the very superficial one. I don't like safer Sephiroth. I don't enjoy seeing it. I don't enjoy the fight outside of his move and the music. I think he looks weird, and I feel like it undermines him that we see the way he's represented throughout the entire game. I had the same problem with Kefka as well, even though I didn't mention it in my Final Fantasy VI Thoughts video. I like seeing humanoid Sephiroth, and when we see safer Sephiroth, I just don't like it. It's just not for me. I wish we fought him when he just looked regular. And lastly, I do think there are some weaker characters in this game that I would like to see more to them. The easiest one is Vincent, which is why I feel we get Dirge. Vincent doesn't get the same amount of time and character love as the other characters do. And let's put him in a fair bracket and put him against Yuffie, who is another optional character. Vincent gets one thing outside of his initial quest where you talk to him to learn about him. The only other thing we ever get with Vincent outside of his very few dialogue pieces is the thing with Lucrecia in the waterfall. You get a cutscene, you do 10 fights, you come back, it's over. And you don't really learn a whole lot about him. You don't really get a nice exchange with them for that long. You spend more time fighting the battles than you do experiencing his side quests. Now let's go to Yuffie's. Yuffie gets two of them. Not only does Yuffie get her introduction, which is also pretty unique with how you have to find her, but she gets the side quest when you go to Wutai, where she steals all your materia. And it lasts pretty long, right? It can last up to like 30, 40 minutes. And we learn about the struggles and we see the people, we experience the people of her village and why she wants to change, right? And why she's doing what she's doing. Not only do we get something that involves Yuffie, but we also get something that involves the Turks and Don Cornello. So it's involving all these parties, and all these parties are getting extra stuff. But then we also got pardon me if I mispronounce it, the Paragodo, the place that you go to do the fights. But we also have that. Yuffie gets two things to give you backstory to her, and you get to experience stuff with her. Vincent gets kind of shafted in that regard, and I wish Vincent would get a little bit more screen time. And the last character that I feel the same way for is Cat Sif. Now, I have never enjoyed Cat Sif from a gameplay perspective. I've never been a gambling man when it comes like that with gameplay, so I never found slots that enjoyable. I don't really like the fact that Cat Sif only gets two. I wish he got at least four like Vincent does to add a little bit more variety to his gameplay. He also doesn't really get much in terms of story. Almost every character that we meet in Final Fantasy VII gets some kind of side quest. And if they don't get a side quest, they get a lot of importance in the main story to kind of make up for it. Say Tifa, right? Tifa doesn't really get a side quest, but she gets that part with Cloud and Medivh, right? And she's integrated into the story enough for her to not really need to have her own. But she also gets her stuff in Nibelheim. Cat Sif doesn't really get anything outside of stealing the stone. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you could say like he gets a story moment with the whole Temple of the Ancients, but that's a story moment meant to push the story forward. Not really learning about Cat Sif other than the fact that he's willing to sacrifice his props. I guess we do get to see his two sides, right? But I really wish Reeve would have got a little bit more time. And that's going to do it all for the neutrals. For the bads, I don't have any. Over the years, like I said in the intro, I used to be a pretty stickler about this game and be very hard on it. I would discredit it a lot. As time goes on, I feel like Final Fantasy VII deserves its praise. It's a great game. It has a wonderful atmosphere, it has amazing gameplay, its music is a banger, just like all the other Final Fantasy games. It is a well put together game. Maybe the original translation hasn't aged that well because some people seem like they're not making a lot of sense when they're talking, but that's a nitpick. I think Final Fantasy VII is fantastic, and I had a great time replaying it in this marathon. That's going to do it for my thoughts video. What do you think about Final Fantasy VII? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Did you have a period in time where you couldn't stand it like I did? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and maybe share it with your friends. I'd appreciate it. If you want to join us on our Final Fantasy Marathon Adventure, I'm streaming it all over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Akamatzu. I stream every day at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. If you'd like to join us, we would love to have you. I would like to thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Stay crunchy, amigos.